Somebody's gonna try to blackmail me with advertising? Blackmail me with money? Go f yourself.
Whoa, dude, it's only Wednesday.
Our dear friend Jake Ward speaking for all of us there, reacting to Elon Musk's wild interview at the Deal Book Summit. Quick reminder, Musk said that to potential advertisers who were thinking of dropping Twitter, some of whom were sitting there in the room. Linda Yaccarino, who's the CEO of Twitter, was also in the audience when Musk made those comments. Today, she sent out a memo to her employees, writing in part this: our principles do not have a price tag, nor will they be compromised, ever. And no matter how hard they try, we will not be distracted by sideline critics who don't understand our mission. All right, joining me to discuss this, Jake Ward himself, our tech correspondent. Okay, then maybe I don't understand Linda Yaccarino or Twitter's mission. This is not a not-for-profit. This is a for-profit business. And the business is run on an advertising model. What in the world is she or he talking about? I mean, she went on in her note to say he said profound things in that interview. At what point in history of business or respectable society was it acceptable to tell anyone to go F themselves?
Yeah, and especially right in the advertising community, in which the relationships between the company leaders is everything, right? I mean, the when he said that on stage, according to people who were in that room, right, this gasp went across the crowd, and in that crowd is, not only Linda Yaccarino, who undoubtedly sort of looked around and thought, my God, I'm going to have to make nice with these people at drinks after this, but people like the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, who Elon Musk waved at and said, hey, Bob, specifically as someone who had pulled his advertising off the platform. So you're absolutely right? The lifeblood of X, formerly Twitter, is advertising. 90% of their revenue comes from that. And what's really weird about this stuff is the way in which, if you look at the other 5 companies that Elon Musk runs, those companies, in fact, are quite pristine in their business models. They do a great job. Tesla turned a profit of more than $20 billion last year. They're doing great. But every time he misbehaves in this very public way around X, it sloshes over into the other companies. So one example is he was in Israel earlier this week, seemingly there to apologize for his time, for promoting anti-Semitic conspiracy theories on X and all this stuff, right? So earlier, he had offered Gaza the possibility of connecting to the internet in spite of the Israeli blackout through Starlink, the company he owns. Well, this time he goes there, he gets this tour with Netanyahu, he meets with President Herzog, and then seemingly in exchange, he agrees to not give any access to Gaza when it comes to Starlink, and gets that company kind of enmeshed in what's going on in Israel. So as he goes on with this stuff, these other bigger, much more profitable companies are beginning to get involved in the misbehavior that he just doesn't seem to be able to stop doing on X itself, Steph. It's crazy.
So does Twitter have a new game plan or business model? Does Elon Musk plan to self-fund it? Because according to the New York Times, these big advertisers who left, who heard what Elon Musk had to say, they ain't coming back anytime soon.
I mean, right? Why would they? Once you have said that on stage to the top of, this is the thing, right? Is like, and what's crazy is, you don't hear him saying, this kind of thing, go F yourself to the steel makers that SpaceX depends on for its rockets, or to the mining companies that Tesla depends on for battery materials, right? You never hear that stuff. So it's just so odd that he's throwing away literally the lifeblood of that company. When I talk to people about it, they say that, people close to Musk, they basically say, that it's just something, the pressure that he feels obviously is not financial, because, as you say, I mean, he can run this thing in theory forever as the world's richest man, at a loss if he wanted to, but he does seem to somehow recognize that it needs the money eventually, and yet he just can't help himself. There's just something about his need, even before he owned this platform, to say things even about his other businesses, right? He got himself in trouble with the SEC for saying that he would take Tesla private on Twitter once upon a time. There's just something about the megaphone that he cannot resist, even though again and again it seems to be, damaging his other companies. And as you say, I mean, he needs the money, right? $75 million could be lost from this latest round of people pulling out of advertising there. That company needs that money if they're going to keep going, unless he really is prepared to fund it forever simply to have the mouthpiece stuff.
Yeah, call me crazy. When someone tells me to go F myself, I'm not inclined to get back in bed with them. Does Elon Musk know what the word blackmail means? He's now saying he's not going to be blackmailed by these advertisers, okay? Elon Musk claims to be this champion of free speech, right? Don't tread on me. I get to live how I want to live. These advertisers get to choose who they want to do business with. So on what grounds is he claiming they're blackmailing him?
Yeah, I don't get it either. It does remind me of the ways in which we hear, certainly from the fringes of political activism on the right, the same kind of stuff, right? We're all about free speech and the First Amendment, but there's a huge amount of sort of censorious effort, and Elon Musk keeps getting himself into these sort of, these problems in which, on the one hand, he's saying that it's going to be a bastion of free speech and that he's a free speech absolutist and that, X is going to be this platform where sort of anything can be said. On the other hand, he talks about needing to pull back on certain kind of rhetoric. And once he's actually in front of someone like President Herzog, he says, he sort of nods at the responsibility that he has. And yet he just can't help it, right? We have this long history now of Elon Musk either flirting with or openly expressing anti-Semitic viewpoints and propagating anti-Semitic tropes. And so I just, I do not understand. And this is also why, when you look at the CEOs of other platforms like this, they never say anything. They maybe post a cute picture of their kids, but that is it. For the most part, those guys stay quiet. And the reason is you get yourself into such trouble. So you're absolutely right. As a free speech absolutist, it leaves a lot to be desired in terms of how he's actually running the platform right now.
He's also been boosting the old Pizzagate conspiracy theory lately. At some point, or maybe this is the point, our governments, our other businesses, our counterparts starting to look at Elon Musk and saying, this person shouldn't have. I mean, think about all the government contracts he has, right? You've got Tesla, you've got SpaceX, you've got Starlink. Look at the way this man conducts himself. If any other Fortune 500 CEO did a fraction of what he does, they'd be out on their ear.
That's absolutely right. And I think, on the one hand, right, there's the fact that his other companies are tremendously profitable, right? If you're an investor in Tesla, you're pretty happy with how it's going. He rolled out the Cybertruck on Thursday. Today that's a $100,000 vehicle for which there's a wait list. I mean, he makes his investors money. So there's that thing that's protecting him. But then you're absolutely right. I mean, he is at this nexus. The Venn diagram of Elon Musk, crosses all kinds of geopolitical and national security categories that are really alarming. I think if you look at this, and you realize, the White House is calling his statements on X abhorrent. On the other hand, the White House is dependent on him to take material and personnel into space. The same thing true with Starlink. It becomes, a central geopolitical thing when this guy literally owns the single largest constellation of communication satellites in the world, more than 4,300 satellites up in the night sky, more than any other nation, right? So I think all of those things together seem to have put him far beyond the pale of as you say, your average Fortune 500 CEO. It's not just his money. It's that he, across the 6+ companies he's the CEO of, is at the nexus of world affairs in a way that literally may have taken him beyond the normal rules of consequences.